Welcome, everybody, to episode 169. Nice, of Two Goalies, One Mic. Brought to you by Fatty Beer Company, Western New York's premier market and tap room with over 300 beers to choose from at all their locations. Make sure you go check out Fatty Beer for the vibes, the trivia, the entertainment, and to partake in sometimes fun, sometimes depressing Sabres game, and always fun Bills game, and anything else might be going on in the world. And Buffalo Go Apparel. Make sure you get all of your Buffalo sports apparel needs, especially with the Bills, from Buffalo Go. We do have some of our own merchandise on there. The RJ Letterman cap here comes in blue and gold and red and black. And the Hasek Letterman hat, little cool helmet on the side. Make sure you go check them out at Buffalo Logo Co. on Instagram and Twitter, at Fatty Beer on Instagram and Twitter, fattybeer.com, buffalogo.com. How's it going, Hurls?
Got a new laptop. Is this better than me filming on a?
You look good.
Is this better than me filming on a potato like I was last time?
Yeah, you were filming on a potato. So.
Okay, so we upgraded. We're now filming on hopefully a better starch. Maybe I don't know. I'm not too familiar with the starch family, but we're feeling good. Still got to set up the microphone and the light, but we're in the progress. And
you got the circular light.
Yeah, I do have that somewhere.
So you put that right behind your laptop.
Yeah. Moved recently, so still.
No, I'm just saying you put it behind you or in front of you, essentially.
Still gotta actually find it, but once I do, we'll be.
Yeah.
But hopefully, like the Sabres here soon. I've upgraded my roster to include a laptop, and my performance will be better as a result. So here we go. Was it the chat that finally put? Well, I was planning on it anyway, but that was the final straw. Yeah, it was. My phone is. If you could see my phone, can't see it from here. This is what I was filming on. It's an iPhone 13 mini. I've got a Josh Allen sticker on there. Yeah, but this thing's on its last legs, so filming on that was not ideal. So we upgraded, and here we are. That's funny. I'm happy you got it. What did you get? Like a MacBook? Yeah, just a refurbished MacBook Pro. I got it on Amazon, relatively good price. Don't use it that much. I'm often at work, but for what I need to from home, it'll be pretty good. So MacBook Pros are clutch, man. They're nice. Yeah, we're in the game here. So steadily improving our baseline and ready to go. Let's do this. Yeah. So we didn't record last Tuesday. We did do the post game that night, I believe, but it was election night. We did not record episode 169 last week for obvious reasons. But a lot's happened. I mean, obviously we've been covering things with the post game, right after with I'll hang up and listen. But Sabres, an absolute inexcusable collapse yesterday to the Montreal Canadiens. A game where small details bit them in the ass, injuries bit them in the ass. And it goes hand in hand, but just the lack of awareness in the D zone really bit him in the ass. Yeah, it was pretty bad yesterday, to say the least, especially to a team that had lost 6 in a row. Yes. A team that hadn't really scored a lot of goals aside from Cole Caulfield, who is now tied for the league. He had 2 himself. But a lot of lapses that led to some pretty costly mistakes. They at least were able to correct those mistakes pretty quickly, especially those first 2 goals. And even in the third period, they got up 5-4 at one point. But even putting Levi in, you have a cold goaltender who hasn't played in a while. He's played 2 games in 25 days, and one of those games he hasn't even started. You put him in there, and I think you tweeted out the picture of 4 guys in front of him in the slot, which led to the 5th goal by the Canadiens to tie the game up. Nobody on the defenseman at the point, basically screening your own goalie, and not a shot that a lot of goalies would be able to save. So that's a tough situation to put him in. And then on, I think, the 6th goal, pretty bad bounce off the back wall. Caulfield wide open in front, and that eventually in front, man. Just nobody really knew where they were. Yeah. So and nobody knew where the puck was. Can't put that on Levi, but even looking in I guess it was the 4th goal where he was on his post and he didn't get his pad down, and he eventually was pulled. I think that was performance related, but I think Lindy said after the game he had a little bit of an ailment leading up.
Are you buying that?
I don't know. I'm not sure. I don't think he would lie about that.
Well, I don't know. Maybe he's protecting UPL. You know what I mean?
I don't think he has any reason to. Maybe he wasn't feeling his best, and his performance showed that. So maybe in conjunction with the both of those things, he caused him to pull him for the third. So yeah, hopefully he's doing all right, because obviously his play was a huge factor in that 3-game win streak coming up. But as we all saw, a weird game, obviously on a holiday in the middle of the day. It was at 9:30 a.m. for me out here on the West Coast. But pretty inexcusable and bad loss, and something they really absolutely need to respond to on the rest of this homestand, because they got the West Coast swing coming up, and road trips, no matter who the opponents are, aren't necessarily ever easy, and they got to win these next two.
Yeah, I can't agree with you more. Just a lot of things to touch on with that last game. I mean, you're playing so well for 3 games in a row. I personally thought they should have started Levi. His numbers against Montreal and even in his short career are phenomenal. A 1.3 goals against, a 950 save percentage. You're going to play against your hometown in front of your home crowd. I think that if for any goalie, I think you would agree, that would give you some added jump. It's like if you're playing against like your friends, or if you're playing against, a team that gave up on you. You know what I mean? Like, you get added jump. I understand the thought process. He's like, UPL is playing really well. He's got a couple of days rest, but at some point you have to play Devin Levi. You can't just have him continuously sit on the bench. And if there was a game that you were going to play him in, why not play him against a team that just lost 6 games in a row to give your goalie, who's allegedly dealing with an ailment, a rest?
Yeah, I don't hate that thinking behind all of that, especially that last point. You want Levi to develop, and he's not going to develop if he's not playing. And I think we all kind of agree to that, no matter where he is. If it's in the NHL or if it's with Rochester. You saw what happened when he got sent down to the Rochester last season, and he went on a little bit of a run and helped lead the Amerks into the playoffs, and they did really, really well there. At this point in his career, it's good for his development to play. And if that were, like you said, if that were a game that he were to play, it probably would have been that one. Weird time, not the best opponent. Not that signifies anything related to Devin Levi, but he technically is your backup at this point, and that might be a team you would want to play him against. So I would agree with that. But you also see the other side. Obviously, UPL had played well in that 3-game win streak, and he had a couple days rest. But hopefully he's healthy, and that gets into the other injuries as well. Hopefully they came out of that game, obviously really disappointing, but hopefully they come out of that game healthy into the rest of November here.
I want to address that one chart we've been seeing this past weekend, like where the Levi is the bottom left. I have no clue what it means. I refuse to look into it, but it apparently says that Devin Levi is the worst goaltender in the league. Based off 4 starts, realistically,
it's a small sample size.
Yeah. And people are like, he's not an NHL goalie. I'm like, shut up. If you can look at all 4 of those games at face value, the only game he played poorly in my opinion, I think you would agree, is obviously the Columbus game. He couldn't get a save, he couldn't save a puck if his life depended on it that night. Everything was just, even the pucks he was saving, he wasn't controlling the rebounds. He was fighting the puck all night. I'll give you that one, but the other 3 games he played more than fine to win. I mean, you could argue. I'm just so sick of the narrative, and we defend both goalies on this show. We're not a goalie podcast, but we're a couple goalies. What if Levi? I'm assuming Levi probably gets the next start. What if Levi goes on a run here of, winning 3 of the next 4 or something like that? Is this fan base just going to turn on UPL next? I'm just so sick of, and I hate to say it in this manner. I don't mean anything bad by this. When it comes to goaltending, this bipolar fan base who just doesn't understand the position and thinks that goaltenders should just be, should always make the saves that they think they should make. And it's not always that simple. Like arguing with people on that first goal that Levi let in last night. What did you want him to do? Have X-ray vision through 6 bodies? If you watch that goal, the puck left his stick. He never saw it. He never saw that puck from start to finish. It doesn't matter who you are. You can't see through people.
Yeah, I don't really entertain those discussions like you do, because it's not worth it to me. I do think that he needs a little bit more time, and he needs more development to get to the place where we saw him at the end of that 2022-2023 season, where he was in a rhythm coming out of his college season, where he was on a roll, where over the course of 9-10 starts in the NHL, had they brought him up a little bit earlier, the Sabres probably would have made the playoffs. If he's not the same goalie, but he's, if not better than he was at that point. You just need to find a rhythm, and you need to find the right situation for him to be in. And that includes UPL too. I think they've handled him relatively correctly in the sense that they've played him when he's been playing well. And after a down start, they've gone to Levi. And I think that's, like you said, probably what's going to happen here, especially if he needs a little bit more time to deal with an ailment. So we'll see what happens Thursday. It's at home against St. Louis, who's not necessarily the best team in the world, but they do have some talent. So, I mean, I would expect that they would give that to Levi. But again, if UPL is your starter and you claim that he is healthy and he is doing well, I also wouldn't be surprised if they start him. So I think it's a feel thing for Lindy right now. And the team being with where they are, you basically need a win every single time you play to keep yourself in contention and to keep this fan base, like you said, from absolutely losing their minds no matter who's in there. So it's a no-win situation sometimes.
Yeah, I agree. Hit the peanut gallery here before we continue on. Trade Samuelson, Cousins, Quinn for Rasmus Anderson, Blackland, Coronado. Fair trade. Remove the dead weight, overvalued contracts. Team needs to add veterans with experience. What is Tage's injury? We'll get to that. We don't know. Mauricio commenting the T-shirt. God bless America. How's the beer league? How are your beer league standings?
We're in third place. Got a big 4-3 win the other night. We were down 3-1 10 minutes into the game. I myself didn't feel amazing. I let in an easy goal, and then I made a save on a breakaway, a nice glove save, and then didn't let a goal in the rest of the game, and we won 4-3 with a minute left. So sometimes you got to be patient. How about that, huh?
Yeah.
Everybody have patience. I'm not preaching that to the Sabres fan base, but just generally.
My game Sunday night, it was a 9:45 start, which is awful. Didn't feel like playing at all. I ate shitty food all day from a Bills party I was at, and played probably one of the worst games I've played in the last 5 years. But like, even if I would have played well, we still weren't winning that game. We had 3 or 4 guys drop out 2 hours before the game, so you're scrambling for subs, and like, you know how it is. If like you got guys that don't play together against a team that does play together, and their entire team showed up. And I think they must have had a few 2 goalies, 1 Mike's fans on the other bench, because I was getting chirped quite a bit by people who I had no clue who they were, but they knew my name apparently. No clue who these people were. They kept on bringing up the podcast, and I was mind you, I've played pretty lights out up until this point. The previous 3 or 4 games, or 3 out of the last 4 games, and guys just like, you're awful. How do you go host a goalie podcast? I'm like, okay, man. Is Kevyn Adams here? Is Kevin watching?
Any opportunity they have, they'll take it. So I wouldn't.
Oh my God! Listen, I shouldn't even giving them the spotlight right now. Again, I have no clue who these people are. No clue. But like, it was just funny. Like, even they had some hot shot kid who was wearing Regal's pants. Just clearly probably should have been playing in Premier at Harbor Center, which is the top men's league, and like. He was chirping me. I have no clue who the kid is. He's probably 21 years old. Is a good player, phenomenal shot. Goes barring in on me like 10 seconds in. Like, no shot, no chance on this shot. And then he beat me 2 other times, I think it was. He had a hat trick. But, like, he was clear as day the best player on the ice. Too good to be even playing in this league. I'm assuming probably fresh out of junior somewhere. But, like, again, I have no clue who you are. I'm almost 40 years old. And, like, you just... Oh, dude, great game, bud. Great game. You look so good. I'm like, who? Dude, like, we play in the same league. Like, competitive hockey is being played right now, but you're playing here with me. So shut up. Like you need to stop.
No mind.
Yeah. Oh, listen, that my thinking of them ends right here. The subject of beer league came up, so I brought it up. But yeah, so the Tage Thompson injury, we haven't. Lindy updated us earlier, but wasn't really much of an update. He just said they're evaluating and they'll hopefully know more. But did they kind of lock in when this injury happened? I saw, like, what did it look like?
So I think it was the Charging Buffalo or a different account.
I saw the video, but
posted video of his last shift in the second period, and that was the last time I remember seeing him. I was in and out watching the game on Monday at work, but that was the last time I remember seeing him. And I do remember seeing this collision on the sideboard with Alex Tuck, and I tried to zoom in myself on that and slow it down to see if there's any possible way there was like a knee hyperextension or it was even non-contact, which obviously would be much worse. And it seems as though the view was kind of obstructed by a couple different players. There was a little bit of a collision, but he even was on the ice for 15 to 20 seconds afterwards, and he didn't look like he was super labored by what happened. So it could be something really minor. It could be a non-contact thing, which obviously would be horrible, horrible news, because I think all of our minds could go to what that could possibly be.
Well, look at Stephon Diggs in Houston with the Achilles.
And I think that's a little bit different as a hockey player, right? Because
I'm just using that as an example.
Yeah, well, Diggs I think tore his ACL, but regardless, like
I thought it was a ruptured Achilles.
No, I think he tore his ACL.
I remember seeing. Oh, it's Deshaun Watson. That was.
Max Pacioretty has ruptured his Achilles twice. Not to put this out into the universe, I'm just saying it does happen in hockey occasionally. So I would say that don't jump to any conclusions. The video we have is the video we have, and then we can go from there, depending on what the updates are. Obviously, hoping for the best in terms of it just being a minor bruise or collision or anything related to that, because if Tage were out for any extended period of time, given how he's been playing and how that top line has been playing, that would be absolutely catastrophic to the Sabres' chances moving forward. No if, and, or but about it. Him along with Dahlin are the two most important players on the team. And if you lose either one of them, probably the way Tage has been playing at this point in the season, even Tage more so than Dahlin, given the impact that he's had. Dahlin's really picked it up recently, but that would just be the worst possible news the team could receive. So hope for the best, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah. If it is an extended amount of time, we've talked about this leading into the season, how detrimental that could be to the success of the team. And let's not, like, we're not going to dance around it. He's carried this team on his back. Team leading goals. Or
I think that would be like unrelated to the discussion we've had about the depth, because any team losing their top forward would be catastrophic, right?
Yeah, but other teams, we've seen teams that are built
for sure. But I do think that's a little bit different, given that he is the guy, right? Like Alex Tuck, like if you go down the lineup, that gets into the point where like they could be more easily replaced. Tage couldn't be replaced by anybody. So especially the way that he's played, you know what I mean? Like,
I mean, you're telling me if Florida lost Barkov or lost Reinhart, they're fucked?
They're not. I mean,
no, they're not. And if Vegas loses Eichel, they're not fucked.
There are teams that are better constructed than the Sabres, but I would say
that's the point.
But if there are teams that lose if the Panthers lost Reinhart, like he's irreplaceable. The way that he's been playing is what I'm saying.
No, I understand that, but they have the depth to still win without him.
Right. So
and they've won without Barkov. They've won without Tkachuk.
Yeah. No, I don't disagree with you. I'm just saying Tage specifically, I think makes the discussion a little bit more nuanced. But that can be that it doesn't necessarily matter at this moment. I think that Adams was probably looking to, is based upon Pierre LeBrun's report, he was looking to add to the forward group regardless. I think Pierre, he put out a story today that it seems that another executive in the Atlantic Division seems that the Sabres are trying to do something big. That is the report, and Pierre is really well connected. And I know these rumors have been around before, but especially the way that this season has started and the inconsistency, and especially if there is some type of injury to Tage, they absolutely need to do something big. So hopefully that is unrelated to that, but you never know.
And like, if he is in fact working the phones, what are we looking for in return? Is he looking for a top 4 defenseman, I have to imagine with the Tage injury, it's got to be a top 6 forward.
Yeah, it has to be. And I think what he does is going to be directly related to that. If it's months, then you have to. If it's the season, obviously you have to. But I think he was probably in the market for that regardless, because as we said, the second line is kind of underperformed this season, and they're still not performing to the level of expectation that I think even Kevin wanted coming into this year.
Yeah. Couldn't agree with you more. Dylan Cousins has heated up a little bit, thankfully. Finding the net more. Jack Quinn is still just relatively lost out there.
Yeah, I think he had a couple good games. I think it was last week where he had the assist to Zach Benson. It was the Rangers game. Yep. That was his best game of the season by far. He looked faster. He looked a little bit more confident with the puck. He was making good decisions. I think he had 2 assists. But this past game against the Canadiens, he still looked pretty unsure of himself with the puck. A lot of turnovers in the offensive zone. Hasn't quite looked like fully his self consistently yet. So if that's your second line right winger and a member of your top 6 and you can't rely on him consistently, maybe you try to get him on the third line and get somebody else in there to give you a little bit better output more consistently.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. Defensively, obviously, Gilbert came out for Samuelson getting injured. Shocking, water wet. Not that I'm making fun of the situation, but like
he hasn't proven he can stay healthy.
Yeah, like we talked about it in the past. I'd assume Gilbert slides right back in, be seen as a 1-3 in a row with them, even though that third win, he did take 6 minutes in penalties, but I imagine he'll be back in the lineup. Or do they go right back with Yoki Haru?
Yeah, I think it really depends on the situation. If Gilbert's ready to go and he was already replacing Samuelson, I think that would make sense, especially if Samuelson's out for an extended period of time. I think Yoki Haru is going to get a chance again. He was too not consistent, but he played relatively well last season to the point that he earned his spot in the defensive pairings this coming into this year. So I don't necessarily think that he's lost his spot completely. And while Jacob Bryson has played well, Jacob Bryson hasn't necessarily been the most consistent performer throughout his career as well. So I think Yoki Haru is going to get his chance, and depending on what happens with the pairings and whatnot, and obviously injuries happen. This is it's been the theme of this team for the past few years. Like, you're not going to – it's a physical sport. It's a long season. You're going to need depth. You're going to need the guys come in and out, and this is what's going to happen throughout the course of the year. Obviously not catastrophic injuries, but, yeah, I think either one is going to get a shot. But the way that he played, I would love to see Gilbert get back in there. I think he played with a lot of physicality, and he was responsible in his own end. And for a team that takes some chances, they're gonna need that moving forward.
Yeah, I tend to agree. Like you said, we got St. Louis on the horizon. Not a great team, but definitely better than the Montreal team we just lost to. What changes in this lineup if Tage Thompson can't go, do you predict?
Oh, gosh. I don't even want to think about that.
You have to imagine Kulich is back in the lineup, right?
Yeah, probably Kulich comes up. I think they were putting Cousins. The rest of the game, I think Cousins was with Peterka and Tuck. Mm-hmm. So I think potentially McLeod will go to the second line, and I don't necessarily know how it's going to shake out from there. But I think you would have to put Cousins with Peterka and Tuck, maybe McLeod with Kulich and Quinn, or Benson and Quinn, and then you have the lineup shake out the way that it does from there. But even just saying all of those things obviously underscores how big of an issue that would be if Tage misses any amount of time at all. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I really, really hope that's not the case, but that's kind of what they did once he was out at the beginning of the second period on Monday.
And again, knowing that his job might be on the line, Kevyn Adams, like if he was working the phones as it was rumored before the Tage injury, he's absolutely working them even more so now. Like, what prospects are going the other way? Is Ryan like I just still don't see a place for Ryan Johnson in this organization right now with how overloaded they are on the left side. I think he's a good prospect, but I think his purpose for helping this team win is to be involved in some type of trade that brings them some firepower back.
Yeah, I think he'd be available. I think I think Ostland would probably, they'd want to keep him compared to Rosine,
Yeah.
but I'm not as in depth on the prospects as,
Yeah.
some other people are. I don't necessarily know how they rank them or who they like the best, just in terms of what I've seen and what his production has been in the AHL and in the Swedish league. Like Ostland is probably higher up on their internal ranking than
Yeah.
Rosine is. And then you got a lot of guys, right? They're not the only first round picks. Anton Wahlberg is also there. He's a power forward. He's a little bit different of a forward than you currently have in your system. So maybe you want to keep a guy like that around. And then you've got first round picks. You've got not only this year, you've got the year after that. You've got not just former first round picks, you've got second round picks. You've got defensemen. You've got this pipeline that you've built over years and years and years that you're proud of and that you're happy with. But if they're not contributing to your NHL team that you claim as win now, then they all should be available. So I think anything is on the table at this moment. And I think a lot of the teams in the league that are rebuilding, that have been to the playoffs recently, or at least like consistently in the past 5 years, but aren't necessarily going to get over that hump in the next 5, they would be open to this type of thing because they need to rebuild their prospect pipelines. They need to do things to get back to the point where they can start to contend again. So yeah, I think anybody's on the table. I really do.
Well, you saw earlier today, Lars Eller traded back to the Capitals for a 5th round pick and a 3rd round pick, which for a $35, that seems like even like an overpay by Washington. Like I think you probably could have got Lars Eller for a 5th personally. He's got 7 points on the season. He's not really playing. Again, he's probably retiring, I would imagine, fairly soon. Pittsburgh, a team that's probably selling. They've already, Dubas has flat out said everybody but Sidney Crosby is available. Like they're open for business. I forget who was in the chat brought up Rasmus Anderson, but you got to imagine Calgary's open for business. Like, you've always seen Rasmus Anderson's name thrown around in trade circles. I've seen some dim-witted trade proposals for Rasmus Anderson. I've heard some of them, but like at the end of the day, as a right-handed defenseman, that would immediately make your team better depending on what you're sending back. And to all your points you just made, like these players are going to be like, this team is young. It's very young. You have 5 former first-round draft picks currently not playing on your NHL roster. You can't make room for everybody. So somebody has to go to bring somebody in. Maybe there is an overpayment, much like many think they did for McLeod, with Savoy. People thought that might have been an overpayment, me especially, because I thought but I agree with it. McLeod is what they needed now compared to what they hope Savoy ends up being. But like Blake, I've always been big on Blake Coleman. I think he's a type of player this team could really use. Just a guy who can really play anywhere on the ice, can fit into your top 6, but can really excel in your bottom 6. Not that we need a bottom 6 guy, but like there's a lot of guys. I have to imagine there's a lot of guys out there that we don't know that are available. It just depends on how much you're willing to overpay to get them to come to Buffalo.
Yeah, that's kind of the situation that the organization is in right now. And it's the situation they put themselves in over years and years of losing and inconsistency. So that kind of is what it is. But I think no one can really say that they don't think KEVYN is going to do it, because he's proven that he will. He, like you said, with the McLeod trade, with Savoy, and even with Casey Middlestat and Bowen Byram. You can not necessarily like that deal given how well Middlestat has performed in Colorado, but he's also in a really good situation over there in an offensively minded team with really good surrounding players. So I expect KEVYN to do something, given that I think he knows his job is on the line. And this team needs more consistency. They need more 7-3 stretches over the next 10 games moving forward to keep themselves in this playoff conversation, because I think he knows that's where the future of his job lies.
Yep. Fabry obviously was claimed off. Who's he claimed by?
I didn't see personally.
The defenseman. I forget. I know he was claimed in like the last. I think maybe even today he was claimed. I'm not sure. But some names that are being thrown around there, like out of Pittsburgh, Matt Grzelcyk. I am interested to see what Boston does, because Boston is a team that it's really starting to show their age. Is this the time they finally decide, like, the only untouchables on our team are probably the obvious, your McAvoy, your Marchand, and you're Swayman, but everybody else is, available. Like, how much longer does Boston need to be kind of in this weird position that they've been in, where they win some, but they're losing more than they're winning? How much longer do they keep playing like this until finally they decide to start to be a seller? Like, not that Boston would make an in-division trade, but again, teams that are getting older, longer in the tooth, they have some decent players on their roster that could help this team right now. We've seen, I think it was it Columbus that I think claimed Fabry off waivers. So that makes Jiricek a guy that could be available. They've already talked about him. He's been on the trade block for a while. We've talked about Calgary. But I think those are your main teams that, if you're looking at, that are definite sellers. Zegras, out of Anaheim, he's back on allegedly back on the trade block. Like, what would it cost to get Trevor Zegras here? I'm not even sure if he has a no move clause.
I don't know either. I would say a top prospect, a high pick, something to meet his ceiling, which is pretty high. I think everybody's seen what Trevor Zegras can do. People in Buffalo saw it firsthand when he flipped a puck over the net to Sonny Milano, and it caused one of the most viral plays in NHL history. And that's just an example of his playmaking ability and his talent. He's still very, very young. He was the same draft as Dylan Cousins, and everybody keeps saying that, to be patient with Dylan Cousins, because he is still very young. He's played a lot of games in the NHL, but he is still a very young player. So
he does not have a no move clause.
Yeah. So Trevor Zegras is an example of a guy with a very high ceiling, at least 10 to 15 more years left in the NHL, and an incredible amount of talent, and also swagger, confidence, the type of feeling that you would potentially want in this group. If, God forbid, you lose a guy like Tage Thompson, who has all that swagger and all that confidence and all of these unbelievable goals and all of these unbelievable plays, what better way to not replace that, but at least get some of that back with Trevor Zegras and put him into your top six and find a combination that works for him. So I would absolutely love it. That's just me. I know a lot of people don't like his attitude, but I think that's usually older and not fun people personally. But that's just me. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, I'm excited to see what they do, because I think, like you said, anything could happen.
I love Joey Hatch's optimism here. We're one player with a healthy Tage. I mean, playoffs I'll give you. I don't know about Stanley Cup, but
I would say, like, I was talking to some friends the other day, like, with the NHL these days, there is some parity from year to year. Mm-hmm. If you get into the playoffs and you're hot with a hot goalie going into the playoffs, you never know what could happen. You really don't. And I know that's might sound insane for a lot of people to say, but I really do believe this team isn't as far off as people think it is. Obviously, like, it wasn't the greatest start to begin the year, but even going into yesterday, 7-4-1 after that 0-3 start. And they were starting to figure it out, starting to beat some good teams and have a little bit more consistency. So I think that was always the goal of this year, right? Find some consistency, find some more scoring depth, and get into the playoffs and see what happens. I'm not saying Stanley Cup, because I don't necessarily believe that, even if as hot as they got, that would be almost outlandish given where this team is currently. They're still the youngest roster in the entire league. But that's the goal, just to get in, see what happens, give the team that you're playing a series, and if you win the series, you go from there. So I'm cautiously optimistic, kind of like Joey. And yeah, I do think that making a big move like this, regardless of what the situation with Tage is absolutely necessary.
Yeah, I could agree more. Gonna do a shorter episode here tonight. But that being said, I had a thought. I just had it in my head, and then I just kind of lost it. Damn it. What was it? I can't remember. And if I think about it here in the next minute, we'll talk about it. But any final thoughts, heading into next week? Oh, you know what it is? Here it is. One thing I am happy with this team for sure is no more slow starts. No more questioning whether they're ready to play or not. That's the Lindy effect. And, Lindy did call out Owen Power in his post-game presser yesterday. Literally said I don't think it was a penalty. I think Owen Power was just out muscled to a puck. That's essentially calling him out, in my opinion. Like, you called him out, you held the player accountable. And I love that, Some people might not think it's a good thing calling players out publicly, but I love it because it shows when you're calling a player like Owen Power out, who's as valued as his out, 8.3 million a year. It shows nobody's safe. Nobody's safe from criticism on this team, and it maybe, hopefully, makes everybody step up their game a little bit more, so they're not the next one to have their name mentioned in a Lindy post game presser.
Yeah, I think the accountability that we talked about going into this season has been on clear display. Obviously, Samuelsson had an A, and he got benched because he wasn't playing well. And he even said himself in his media interviews that he didn't play to his standard, and there are consequences for that. I don't think anybody on this team is immune to the wrath of Lindy. And not to say it like that, but it's a guy that's proven over the course of his career that you need to perform to be in the lineup. And no matter who you are or what position you play in, you're going to be judged by that standard. And I think that goes both ways. Especially when we talk with goaltending. I think UPL earned all those starts because he was playing well. I think guys have earned power play time because they have played well. Zach Benson got back into the lineup because he works hard and he's a pest out there. And as we saw in that game against the Rangers, he made an immediate impact coming back from injury. So I do think it goes both ways. And I've been pleasantly surprised with the way this team has responded from an accountability and responsibility standpoint at this point. And obviously, you need to see a lot more of that moving forward, but especially compared to what we've seen over the past couple of years, it is a night and day difference. That's for sure.
Yeah, for sure. Your final thoughts?
Obviously, I think I said it yesterday. Nothing really matters until we find out what's up with Tage, and hopefully we get that update tomorrow. Even leading into the game on Thursday, nothing in the short term matters until we know the status of the best player on the team, a guy that's been playing like a top 10 player in the league. I think that is absolutely paramount before you figure out what's going to happen with the rest of the season. Let's say he is out for an extended period of time or even the season, which would just be the worst luck ever, but shit happens in the NHL. You got to make a massive trade. You got to use your prospects and your pipeline to do something to make this team not lie down and call the season a wash just because you lost your best player. So I think you wait and see what the status of his injury is. And I think either way, KEVYN is probably looking to make a deal to improve the top six or even bring in a guy on defense or maybe even a goalie. I'm not sure. I think the conversation with Levi is really probably dependent upon how he performs in his next start. And then if you want to get him more games, maybe send him down for a little bit to get him some confidence and more development, and then you go from there. But I think KEVYN has proven, as frustrating as it's been for some fans, that he is willing to make a deal. And I think he knows that his job is on the line, and his job in the future in this league is dependent upon this team having more sustained success in the near future and the distant future as well. So find out what happens with Tage, go from there. Hopefully he's all right. I'm counting my lucky stars that it was a minor injury.
Yeah, I really hope so. My final thoughts are tied to, not final thoughts, just a thought, but I'll say final thoughts. A Buchagras tweet from yesterday. Tage Thompson looking like a USA Four Nations forward. Matthews, Eichel, Thompson, Larkin, decent down the middle. Kachuk brothers with Eichel, Kyle Connor with Hughes and Matthews, Boldy and Gensel with Tage, JT Miller with Kreider and Larkin. That could be your checking line. And a beat writer for the Minnesota Wild, and I kind of went back and forth with them. But he said he wouldn't be. Let me find the first reply. Vinny Trocheck and Nelson, I bet, would make it over Tage.
Saw that too. I don't acknowledge these people because it's not worth it.
Like
it's not worth it.
Combined, they don't even, if they still have less points than Tage.
It's an insane comment, and it's honestly I understand why. It's just it's so insane, and it's almost like on the level of trolling that it's just not even worth acknowledging.
Yeah, and then he followed up my comment. It was like, "Oh, I'm keeping these receipts." I'm like, "Go ahead, man. You're not going to be using them." Because if USA Hockey picks those two players over Tage Thompson, then they deserve what they get in the Olympics and the Four Nations tournament.
Hey, all we can hope for that Tage is out a brief amount of time and that he plays in that tournament in February.
Yeah. So, but yeah, man, I got nothing else. as always, guys, remember this is brought to you by Fatty Beer Company, Western New York's premier market and tap room with over 300 beers to choose from. Make sure you go check them out and tell them Two Goalies when Mike sent you. And as always, Buffalo Go Apparel. Get all of your Buffalo sports apparel needs from Buffalo Go. I am Duane for Connor. Great beer league goalie. Me, terrible beer league goalie. We will see you. When's the next game? Is it tomorrow?
Thursday.
Oh, yeah, sorry. Thursday against St. Louis. We'll see you post game for that. I'm going to the Shoresy thing tomorrow. I'm excited.
I heard about that. That should be cool.
Have you seen the show?
No, I saw the.
Oh, it's fantastic.
What's the original show?
Letterkenny. It's
Letterkenny. Yeah, I saw that back in the day, but I've never seen Shoresy.
Oh, dude, I would say Shoresy is the closest thing you're going to get, TV or movie wise, to what it's like to actually play on a hockey team. It's great. Love it.
I'll definitely check it out.
But yeah, I can't wait to go to that tomorrow with some guys from work. So with that being said, guys, this has been episode 169 of Two Goalies, One Mic. Signing off. We will talk to you Thursday night. And as always, go Sabres.